most of the students are afraid that, am I able to do this? Am I sure this education is for me? What you need to do for me is ensure that after each class, you pick your notes and you study again.
Hello, and welcome to the very first episode of the ADU podcast, where we will be discussing student success, academic development, and things that will make your learning journey smoother. My name is Hajirah, and I'll be your host for today. And we will be discussing a very, very important topic today in the podcast, which is the struggles of the university life and how to tackle with them. The guest for today's podcast is Dr. Temi. Welcome, Dr. Temi.
Thank you very much, Aji. I'm so excited to be here today and to have this conversation with you.
Okay, so just to let you guys know that Dr. Temi is a business and finance lecturer who has extensive experience in supporting students. So I'll just dive right in with the first question, Dr. Temi.
Let's have it.
Okay. So based on your experience, what are some of the biggest challenges that students face while returning to education, university education in particular?
Oh, that's a very interesting question, Ajia. And well, there are a number of challenges matured students face when they transit into the university.
Yeah.
And one is time management.
Yeah.
Well, apparently everybody has this challenge in life because we all have more than one thing going for us at the same time. But particularly for these students, they have their personal lives before they decide to come back to school.
Absolutely.
And so their personal lives cannot be paused, all because they want to have education. So it means that simultaneously they have the schooling going for them. They have their personal lives, their kids, their families, their jobs going for them. And so managing all this together, juggling from childcare to their jobs to school, can be a little overwhelming. Another one is the fact that they are now experiencing a new style of learning, which is quite different from what they had when they are younger.
Yeah.
You know, when we were younger, there is a style of learning that is peculiar to the old times.
Yeah.
But now that things are changing, we have the technologies changing every time, and these ones are not exposed to them. And so, you know, the fact that they have to cope with all these online lectures and transiting from Zoom to Teams to Moodle to CRM, you know, or even Canvas, all these things, it becomes overwhelming for them also. And so another one is the imposter syndrome.
Can you explain it a little bit, please?
Well, when it comes, imposter syndrome is this situation where they feel they don't belong. Like, you have the self-doubts where they feel like, oh, I'm not able to do this. Or the fear of being judged. Oh, okay, what would my professor say? What would my classmates say if I'm not able to measure up to this? And so this kind of puts them under unnecessary pressure. And so sometimes students withdraw, or they don't just engage in class because of the fear of being condemned. Or probably every one of us, we have our backgrounds. And so, you know, they feel like, oh, okay, if I talk, do I have the right answers?
Yeah.
The first thing I say in the first class is, in this class, there is no right or wrong question. Apparently, there are wrong I say there is no right or wrong answers.
Yeah.
Well, apparently, there are wrong answers.
Of course,
but
there are.
You know, we just have to make them feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the fact is that this statement alone makes many of them relaxed.
Yeah.
Okay, even if I say the wrong thing, I am sure I won't be condemned for it.
Temi, while answering the first question, you have discussed a very, very important topic, a very big challenge for the students, which is the imposter syndrome. So do you have any tips for the students on how to manage the imposter syndrome challenge?
Well, you know, the funny thing is that at some points in life, some of us, we want this kind of validation, which is linked to the imposter syndrome. Remember, I said that because of there's this self-doubt, the fact that most of the students are afraid that, am I able to do this? Am I sure this education is for me? Then we have some that have this fear of being judged. Or what would my professor say? What would my class mates say about me?
Yeah.
And so, because of this, they withdraw and they don't engage in class. But one thing is that the student needs to realize that even though you feel like you cannot do it, you can do it if you push yourself to.
Exactly, yes.
That is the thing. And then the funny thing is that a student thinks is not it does not belong, or he or she does not belong to a particular group of students. Another student is feeling the same way.
Exactly.
Only the fact that they cannot voice out their concern.
Yeah.
So if they seek help, if they seek for support from lecturers, from the teams that are, like, for instance, we have the ADU, that's the Academic Development Unit, that assists students or supports students rather in their study life. I'm sure they will get over it. But one thing is that these students must not keep to themselves. They
Exactly.
must speak out. They must voice out, okay, this is what I'm going through. I would give you I will give an example. In one of my finance classes, I have this student, jokingly in the class, it will tell me, Temi, I'm not sure this is for me.
Yeah.
And everybody will laugh. And he said at some point that, Temi, you are taking me from this place to this place.
Yeah.
And I'm in between and I don't even know where I am. Everybody laughs, but then I just keep assuring them that you can do it. Yeah, their concern is that they don't have a finance background.
Yeah.
And many of them, they tell you, I hate maths.
Yeah.
And then, well, many of us hate maths, but we just have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Well, that's the truth. But then, he called me out one day in the class when I gave a class activity. And it was like, Temi, can I see you? And I said, okay. So how can I help? And he said, can I see you outside? And he took me outside and took me to a corner and expressed this concern. Tell me, I'm not sure I can do this. And I said, why do you think you can do it? He said, it's like, I understand now, and then he flies out the next minute. I told him to relax, that it's something he can do. That, well, I will make it easy for him. I would go as simple as possible, and I would be of help anytime, but that he should have it in mind that it's something he can do. All he needs to do for me, I told him, what you need to do for me is ensure that after each class, you pick your notes and you study again. If you have any challenge, come to class the next time and ask me.
Yeah.
And I must tell you, after the exams, we passed.
Oh,
Although
wow.
on the average, but I'm happy he passed and he's happy he passed.
Yeah.
And so these are some of the things that happens. They feel like, oh, I cannot do this. But once you just speak out first, you would see the help.
Okay, so Temi, that was another great answer from your side.
Thank you.
Another big challenge that we have seen the students face is about academic writing. So, according to your experience, what are some of the key things that the students struggle with, and what are your solutions for the students?
Well, interestingly, when I mark or when I grade assignments, I've seen a lot, just like you said. From my experience, I've seen a lot. And, well, students struggle with critical writing. That is, when they have to be critical, you find them being descriptive in all their writing. But academic writing entails critical reasoning and thinking. And then, because you have to consult a lot of academic resources for you to come with a critical conclusion.
Exactly.
And so many of them struggle with that. The fact that the fear of reading a lot of material, it starts from there.
Yeah.
And so, because many of them struggle to get hold of relevant materials, and so it's a bit challenging for them, but it's something that for you to achieve a good academic report or academic writing rather, you have to be critical. Exactly.
There's a difference between storytelling and academic writing.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And another thing they struggle with is referencing. Oh my, that's really challenging. This is not peculiar to whether matured learners or young learners. Students generally.
I'm that student. I mean, I still struggle with referencing. It's difficult.
You know, well, something is something we cannot run away from in
Yeah.
academics.
Yeah.
You need to know your references because this is what gives the academic rigor. This is what ensures your academic integrity.
Exactly.
Your
yeah.
ability to cite authors properly, and reference them according to the required referencing style. We have different referencing style as required or by universities.
Yeah.
I know every university have their own requirements.
Yeah, different
Some
styles.
use Harvard, some use APA,
Yeah.
and so it depends on them. But your responsibility as a student is to know the referencing style of your university
Absolutely.
and
yeah.
familiarize yourself with it. And that is why we have universities across board organizing workshops, study skills workshop. Many of them even have academic skills centers where
Yeah.
they train students on how to do academic writing. And I know for Scholar School System, we have the academic development unit.
Yeah.
They help students to get through this academic writing.
Yeah.
And another thing that we must not take away from this whole thing is constant practice.
Absolutely, yes.
Practice, they say, makes perfect. So
Yeah.
for us to have a perfect academic writing skills, we have to continuously write.
Right, practice, absolutely.
Thank you.
My next question to you would be, Temi, that many students struggle with motivation,
Mm.
specifically under stressful times.
Mm.
So, what can be a few causes of losing motivation over time, according to you, and how can the students manage this lack of motivation?
Well, motivation, coming to school, we know that they have this thing that motivated them to pick up their studies again,
Yeah,
to say, "Hey, I really want to go and study." But looking at it, life happens.
yeah,
Well, one of the things is the overwhelming lectures. And you find out that, oh, they are exposed to new concepts. And just like I said in previously, that the fact that, okay, they are struggling to understand what that concept is. And maybe every other person around them is even understanding and they feel left out.
yeah.
As just like I mentioned about the imposter syndrome.
Mm.
And so that really can be demotivating. And another thing is personal challenges,
Yeah.
financial crisis, marital crisis, family crisis, health challenge. You know, all these sometimes can demotivate students. I remember one of my students that you know, is so active in the class. He sits in front of the class.
Yeah.
He and his wife. And then all of a sudden I noticed they missed like 2 classes consecutively.
Mhm.
And when he came back, he told me he had health condition and that he needed to go to the hospital.
Mhm.
And by the time he was finishing the semester, although I told him that, if you need any support, I'm here to help. If you need to apply for extension or mitigation, just let me know, and so that there are procedures, and I would guide you through it, or you should meet the student support, and then, but the thing is, I don't know if he's able to continue now because
Yeah.
he told me he was going to have a surgery, and he didn't know how long it's going to take to get over the healing process.
Yeah.
And so these are some of the things, and you know, it could be overwhelming. And then another thing is, I have another student that has this panic attack in the class, but she was able to manage it over time. Now, instead of coming to school 2 days in a week, now with the support of the lecturers and the student support team, we were able to help do the online sections plus the physical sections. So it comes in, joins online this week, comes, if she's fine, she comes in to the physically to school the next week, and we were able to manage. And I just noticed that towards the end of the semester, she came consecutively,
Yeah.
and I was really happy. But in
So-
my class, I paid
Yeah.
attention to her so that
Yeah.
there won't be any crisis or with that. So these are the things. So, but then, one thing students should know is when they go through this challenge, they are not in it alone.
Yeah.
Students need to learn to speak up. There are designated units that support students.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might not be comfortable with talking to lecturers, especially if the lecturer is an opposite sex and it
Yeah.
has to do with personal things. And so you might not be comfortable. But then we have for instance, if you are struggling with the academic, probably the academic part, we have the academic development unit.
Yes.
If it's personal experiences, we have the students and the students support and experience unit.
Yes.
So we have all these units that can help students get through these challenges so that they can get back on track and then get back their motivation.
Absolutely. So basically, knowing what services are being provided for you by your institution and
Yeah.
then actually utilizing them instead of staying silent and keeping it to yourself.
Yes.
I know it takes a lot of courage to actually speak up for, whatever you're feeling or whatever you're going through, but then, if you are actually provided with a facility, why not just use it, maybe?
That's true.
Yeah?
Just to say again that we have the safeguarding unit. So
Safeguarding unit as well, absolutely, yeah.
So all these
So-
units are there just
Yeah.
for them to just speak up.
So
and
whoever
then-
you're comfortable with or whoever you
Mhm.
think that is the most relevant for you, maybe
That's
just
true.
go and talk to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. So moving forward to the next question. Exam stress, Temi.
Exams.
What are some of the major stresses that students face during exams and how to deal with them? Your suggestions, your take on it.
To be realistic, and I'm sure you would agree with me that as students, you too don't like exams.
Oh, no, not at all. Nope.
Well, students don't like exams. So when we talk about exams, if it's written exams or the assignments, deadlines, I mean, these are major stressors for students.
Yeah.
And you know why?
Why?
Well, the fact that you don't know if you've learnt a lot in a short time.
Yeah.
And I remember in the finance class that my finance module is a closed book written closed book written exams, and then a student said to me, many of the mature students, some of them have not done exams before in UK.
Yeah.
Because I remember one of my students saying to me that, are we going to come in with our books?
Yeah.
And I said, no, sorry, this is a closed book exams.
Yeah.
It's just you, your pen, and your calculator. And he said, Temi, then how are we going to write? You have to read. Apparently, it's something that they need to do.
Yeah.
So, students, apparently I have to confess this.
Yeah.
It happened to me too. We leave things towards the end
Yeah.
of the semester before we start reading.
Absolutely, yes. That happens to everyone at least once in lifetime.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, and someone like me, I'm happy I got to know quickly that I am slow in writing, and if I have to understand things, it takes me a while. So it means I have to commit more time to studying. And so for students to reduce the stress, they need to understand their person. You don't need to compare yourself to any other person or with any other classmate. You are unique. You
Absolutely.
are peculiar. There is a way you learn. There's a way you study that is just you.
Yeah.
And so you need to understand yourself. And then you now need to prepare ahead. So don't wait till the end of the semester or 1 week to exams before you start reading. You have to pick it from the very first day. I have a very funny experience. While I was doing my master's, there is this colleague of mine. She reads better when there is noise.
Oh, okay.
And the funny thing is, while we are seated in class, maybe during the break period, and we are all laughing, she could instigate the joke, and then the next minute you see her in a corner reading.
Oh, wow.
She just sits with her tab, and then she keeps reading, and I was like, how do you do it?
Yeah.
And then she reads practically, she can read anywhere. But I have to be by myself, no peeping, nobody's talking before I'm able to grab what I need to grab.
Yeah.
And if she's able to grab anything in that few time, no, I can't do it. So I need more time for myself to understand. And I'm sure she can pick things just as quick like that.
Yeah.
Imagine now comparing myself to her.
Yeah,
And
there's
so,
no point.
yeah, we need to, students need to understand their abilities and then capitalize on it. Don't procrastinate. Procrastination, they say, is a killer of time. And
Yeah.
we shouldn't procrastinate.
And then maybe also taking notes and then actually spending some time every day to revise them instead of waiting until the day before exam to actually prepare.
Apparently.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. It has never worked for me to wait 1 week to exams before you start reading.
Yeah.
The ones I perform better are the ones I start from the beginning of the semester.
Yeah.
And you start,
absolutely.
at least make sure, if it's 30 minutes, make sure you read.
Yeah.
And it boils down to time management again.
Yeah.
So I think as individuals, this is generally now, we need to learn how to make plans for ourselves. We need to, make planners, if you have to use the digital calendars, if you have to use the planners, sticky notes.
Yeah.
I mean, because for someone like me, I have to be sincere with you, for someone like me, I probably make planners on my phone. I have, the to-do list on my phone, and then I even forget that I have a phone. No, that's just me. So what works for me is sticky notes.
Yeah.
And the physical to-do list where you have to carry about. Yeah, I'm carrying this. Oh, I have a note here in my pocket.
Yeah.
I still did that yesterday night.
Yeah.
And so just preparing for what I have to do today so that I won't miss out anything. And then sometimes I just have to stick it in the wall of my room. Okay, do this, do that. This is what I will do next. So if this is what you need to do, for many of the mature students, you might not be the techie ones. Well, we have the techie ones to say.
Yeah.
And then we have the ones that are struggling with technology. But you need to understand what work best for you. If you have to get your diary, physical diary, or the digital diary, grab it.
Yeah.
If you have to use the digital to-do list or the physical to-do list, use them. Physical calendar or digital calendar, just use them so that you will be able to maximize all the time for your study.
Yeah. So that was an extremely important message for the students to understand their uniqueness and what exactly works best for them instead of comparing themselves to anybody else. Before we wrap up, is there any one piece of advice that you would like to give any of the students who are struggling in their university life?
Well, I have to say this, that coming back to to get your education is a very good step.
Yeah.
And it's worthwhile. It's worth it. And so, but then it's not as if it's going to go smoothly.
Mm-hmm.
Getting an education is not easy. It comes with a lot of sacrifices.
It does.
Yeah. And so you need to understand this. There is something that has motivated you initially to say you want to come back to school to learn. And so don't forget that motivation. And another thing is that whatever you are going through, you don't have to go through it alone.
Yeah.
You need to speak up. Yeah. And there are people that will help you through it.
Yeah.
If you have to vent to a friend, if you have to speak to your spouse, if you have to get a mentor, if you have to get the designated units in the university, they are all there to help and support. All you need to do is just encourage yourself and speak up, and then you would get the help. And I assure you, as long as you're able to speak up, you will be able to go through the education process without ASU.
Yeah. That was a great takeaway. Thank you so very much, Temi, for sharing all the insights that you have shared with us today. And I hope that our listeners found all this discussion very, very helpful.
Thank you very much, Aji. Thank you for having me today. It was a good time with you. Thank you for making me feel so comfortable. I really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you very much.
I'm extremely happy that you are the guest of my first podcast, and thank you so much for making me feel so amazing hosting this show.
Now I'm blushing.
And that's it for today's episode. If anything that we have discussed today has resonated with you, I would request you to sit down and reflect on what works best for you and what helps you. We will come back soon with another episode of ADU Podcast, where we will be discussing some other amazing, interesting topics that will be very helpful for you. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will be back with some insightful discussions soon.